live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Real, Raw, and Relevant. And today my special guest is MarBeth Dunn. She's the queen of mindset and miracles, which is so awesome. I love to talk about miracles. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed or really crushed under the hustle and the grind, or challenged by things in life or attracting clients or any of that, today is your day. So get totally excited because you're about to find out what's blocking you, how to get around it, how to create miracles and magic in your life. And this is awesome. I'm totally excited. So welcome to Real, Raw, and Relevant, where successful entrepreneurs share their experience, strength, and expertise with tips and ninja tricks to help you really move through whatever your challenges are in your business or your life. I'm Bennett, brand brilliantly, market like Madonna, profit like a rock star. So I'm just totally excited to introduce you to MarBeth today. Hey, MarBeth.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to read bio a little bit about you here. MarBeth Dunn is a mindset, success, and happiness mentor. Love that, happiness. Who trains business and real estate professionals to create personal and economic miracles. We're going to talk about that, economic miracles. Spiritual teacher for over 30 years, MarBeth uses her intuitive abilities to accurately pinpoint the hidden issues that are holding you back from your greatest successes. To that end, she has developed a powerful miracle activation technology. We're going to talk about that today. Miracle activation technology system, an integrative approach to activate your miracle power breakthroughs to greater confidence, alignment, financial success, emotional freedom, peace of mind, and harmonious relationships. Thank you, MarBeth, for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you, Ann.
This is so great because the first time I met you, I just loved your energy and your vibe. And you were saying, oh, I interview people all the time. And I was like, come and let me interview you.
Aww.
So I'm really grateful that you said yes, which is great. And I'm sure everybody watching is going to get tons out of today's conversation. So, this thing about miracles is really interesting, right? Big and small. What do you think? How did you become an expert in miracles and helping people really tap into their higher vibe and their source, if you will?
Well, we're going to have to go back many, many, many years. I was living in Haiti. I was a painter. I actually lived in Haiti for 17 years. And during that time, until that time, I didn't believe in miracles. My life was miserable. I had a very difficult relationship with my former husband. And we were actually in a very tumultuous time. We went through 7 coups d'etats. And this is the time when Baby Doc was ousted. I know this is back in the 80s. It's, quite a long time ago. But so I had an art business. I was a painter, and my career, I had a couple of shops at the beach, dead, absolutely dead, because people were not coming to Haiti. They didn't want to come to a place that was all over the news and very tumultuous. So that basically killed my business. So our business was flatlining. No money was coming in. I was a painter, but people were not commissioning portraits or buying my prints or my note cards. So here I'm in this difficult marriage. My self-esteem was very low. I just had no self-confidence, no self-esteem, and in this very difficult relationship. And I had health issues. Well, it all interweaves. And I had been desperately seeking miracles, for a long time. So I was exploring all of these esoteric things. I looked at Buddhist chanting. I looked at the I Ching. I looked at Eidetics, Dianetics, you name it. I was out there and I was seeking it. And I was reading all kinds of metaphysical books. And while the information was good, it wasn't solving the issue. because I was looking outside myself. I wasn't looking for what was going on inside me. And so one day I was reading in bed. I'm lying in bed, I'm reading, and there was a beautiful sunny day. We had these slats on the windows that were made out of mahogany. We built the house, and we had these beautiful slats. And in through the slats, the sunlight was streaming in onto the bed. And I just looked up from the book. I couldn't focus. And I just kind of went off, and I'm watching these little dust motes dancing in the sunlight. And all of a sudden, aha, I realized my thoughts can create a different reality. Now, this was huge because I never believed that before. Mm-hmm. I believed that I was completely stuck, that there was no way out. And now all of a sudden, I have this epiphany. And that was really the beginning, because from there, I developed this very close relationship with spirit and source, God, the universe, whatever we want to call her, him, it, and then my life just took off, and all of these miracles started to happen. First thing was this relationship that I had with my former husband. It was very, very difficult, and I never expressed myself. I never found that it was safe. I was not brought up to express my feelings. In fact, everything was on lockdown, which accounted for a lot of pressure. When you're, holding emotions down, it takes a lot of energy. And all of a sudden I hear myself expressing myself and telling him what has been going on with me. And I was guided to leave, and then I was guided to come back again 5 days later, and I didn't want to. But when I came back, everything was completely different. I was in a very respected place, and I suddenly had power, and I was able to say, I don't want this. I'm not coming back if you're going to continue this particular behavior. And I felt really good about myself. Things had shifted. We were able to renew our marriage vows. And this actually lasted for several years. So that was the first miracle. And the second one was that our business, which, in the middle of all of this tumultuous political upheaval, people arrived on my doorstep and commissioned large orders of note cards. And people came from France. They came from all over the place. And I was just stunned because, wow, just changing my beliefs, connecting with spirit, and look what happens. So yeah, everything shifted in my life. And that's how a long-winded version of that's how miracles started in my life.
Wow, that's great. So, I love hearing stories of people that all of a sudden miraculous things occur, right? And or maybe they're not so miraculous, but they appear like miracles.
It was miraculous. Everything is a miracle when you look at it. I'm actually, I don't know if you know this, but I live in Parkland. I'm 5 blocks from Stoneman Douglas High School.
Oh, I did not know that. No.
Yeah. And there's been, a lot of grief over what's happened. Yeah, but I believe that there's a lot of miracles happening at the same time. And I'll tell you how I know this. Many years ago, almost 10 years ago, I lost my boyfriend to a heart attack. And very suddenly, I found him. It was just devastating. And I knew right then that I had a choice, that I could collapse in grief. And that really terrified me. I don't know why, but it did. And I just decided I am going to work through, release every emotion as it comes up. I'm going to just release it. I had the tools, and I have an arsenal in my toolbox. So I just, as the emotions came up one by one, I released them. And it wasn't very long before all of a sudden I woke up one day and I felt good. And I said, wow, the grief, it's gone, because I hadn't really been checking into it. I just kind of put one foot in front of the other. when I look back at all of the miracles that were there were all of the people that supported me, from my children. Even Harold, my boyfriend who passed, he was there. You know, he let me know in so many ways that he was there and supporting me and guiding me. And you know, just so all of the people, the incredible growth that I experienced from this was huge. And I see already so many people from around the country. I was reading today that one of the parents went to school with his son yesterday, and I drove past the high school yesterday, and there were just crowds of the students were coming to pick up their things and reconnect for the first time since the shooting. And you know, there were posters all over the walls. There just wasn't room for any more posters for people all around the country. So, you know, just all the love and support. And that to me is a miracle, because that's a love connection.
Right.
And then also, I just wanted to say that, and this is going to digress a little bit, but when Trump was elected, I'm very empathic, so I feel so much. And I felt so much anger and grief and anxiety. And I didn't know what it was at first. Now, normally I know to ask, is this mine? But for some reason I didn't. And I was carrying this for weeks and I couldn't shake it. No matter what I did, it would not go away. And finally, what was that?
A lot of people felt that way, I thought.
Yes, a lot of people felt that because there was so much outrage and shock and pain and grief. And then as soon as I realized it wasn't mine, I immediately dropped into my heart and I sent love and peace to everyone who was feeling that. And immediately I felt the peace wash over me. And
yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I think, you know, when we drop into our hearts, we can have all these, you know, thoughts and all these things going on in our heads, but when we drop into our hearts is really where the power of everything we do is focused. So tell me a little bit about, you know, attracting miracles. Do you have any tips or tricks, or is there any little thing you can tell us? Is it partially dropping into your heart, or?
It has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, because I know I have a friend of mine sent me this little heart thing, which is really awesome. Melissa DeAntony sent me this little heart thing where you like put your hands here and you kind of send love to your own heart. And it's such a beautiful thing to do.
That's a beautiful
thing. I'll take care of you and I'm here for you and I love you and thank you and all those kinds of things. Is that kind of part of this? I'm very curious about the miracle activation technology.
Well, basically what I realized that all this had begun in Haiti and that there were a series of replicable steps that I took to activate the miracles, you know, and just to have, when my ex-husband and I reaffirmed our vows, and I didn't want to, but we were looking at different places where we could do this. I went into a meditation. You know, we were thinking of maybe on the roof of our house, out on a friend's trimaran. And, you know, the vision that I saw was in the missionary church in downtown Port-au-Prince, Haiti, which was not where I wanted to go because, you know, it's very conservative, you know, fundamentalist, and I'm very broad. But my husband at the time, you know, said, go in and meditate again. And again, I saw it crystal clear. I said, I'm so sorry, but this is where we're going to have to do it. I got it.
This is the vision, so we're going with it.
And it was amazing. It was so amazing. And people came up to us and they had tears streaming down their faces. And they just said, you know, this just touched us so deeply. And I understood why we did that, because it totally united everyone who was there. You know, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It doesn't, all that matters is really the love that connects you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole heart connection.
The heart connection. That's so crucial. So you touched on the first part, which is being in a love space and loving yourself. So important.
I love being in the love space with myself, with other people, with that personal person, whatever, just anyone. I'm like, I laugh because I say to people all the time when I'm speaking, right? It's like that love connection, that's all we want. That's all we care about ultimately, right?
And yet there's this part of us sometimes that comes up and feels very righteous.
Mm-hmm.
And, everything happens, I believe, for us, not to us. So when my boyfriend died, if anybody had said there are a lot of good things that are going to come out of this, I probably would have punched him in the nose. I would have not really, but I would have felt like it. How dare you?
Like, yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah.
But there were so many wonderful things that came out of that, because one of the things was that I recognized, look what I have, this gift that I have that can help so many other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was a wonderful miracle. I know that, I really missed his physical presence, but I knew he wasn't gone. He was certainly letting me know that he was still around. So the first thing is really love. That's so key, to really be in that love space, and joy and gratitude. We all know this, to make a gratitude list. This has been scientifically proven that when you make a list of the things that you're grateful for, you don't even have to list that many things. If you do it once a week, it can totally shift your economic ability to earn more money.
Right. You could just list 5 things or 3 things or 2 things or 1 thing a day.
Even once a week, it can
just
have
amazing,
amazing ramifications. So love, joy, gratitude, and think, how can I be of service to others? Very, very important. And don't judge other people. Really stay in a neutral place. And I know it's not easy to be in a neutral place.
It goes off like, I'm going to be non-judgmental. Why did they do that? What are they wearing? Just
who do they think they are, and why aren't I as good as they are? We're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, and and that's something, I don't know that we can eliminate it, but completely, but just to be aware of it. Mm-hmm. And choose, and just choose to be peaceful, because when you're peaceful, you are totally connected to God.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, and I'm pretty hyper. So I have really been mindful about not being upset about all the little things that happen, because I can get like a kind of explosive, I have that type of personality. And, the other day, somebody's dog, like, I was just walking on the beach to get some exercise, and somebody's dog jumped the fence and came out and was baring its teeth. And I was completely frightened, but all I did was like, I pulled everything in, right? I did this, and then I turned around a couple of times, and the guy came and got his dog. But it was like, I have a tendency, being, Irish, but I have a short fuse on certain things, and I can just go off. And I've just found myself recently really focused on bringing more peace into my life. So just trying to stay, not like I don't get excited about things, but just more like, do I need to be upset about everything? I mean, things are always going out of whack, it seems, in life, right? And I could be upset all the time.
You could be.
I think that's great. So when you, so we're talking about, love and joy and being grateful and peaceful. How is there anything that you could tell people about when you are upset? How to shift your attention?
I just ask for a different way of looking at the situation, and the thing is also is really to surrender to the guidance that you receive. And if something is agitating you, you're not being peaceful. So you move away from that into the place of peace, and then you know that you're aligned. And that is a really good way to, and when you're agitated, and you may not get that peace right away, you may have resistance to it. There are a lot of different tools that I have that, can help you release, that anxiety and emotion and
because I know my belief is that we store all of our emotions, that we don't, like you were talking about, letting them go all the way through and releasing them and having those feelings and then moving on. But I think most, at least I know for myself and most people, I think that we have feelings and then we're like, ugh, it's like this, I don't want to feel this way, or they get stored kind of in your body. And then when you're quiet, it's like, oh, my turn to have feelings.
No, the work that I do as an empath is, it's kind of interesting because when I tap into the person that I'm working with, I get almost like a computer readout of them where I connect with them from the heart. And then I start to feel in my body where they're holding their trapped emotions. And I get an absolute illumination of what it is. I know what it is. I write it down, that disappears, and I get another. I call them indicators. I don't like to call them symptoms or whatever. They're indicators.
Markers. Yeah.
Yeah, they're markers, basically. Just keep it neutral. And so I'll get like a whole series of indicators about where they're holding different emotions. And I know where they're coming from. Sometimes it's from past lives. And so often not only do we get caught in these old trapped emotions, but we may be stuck in patterns that are from our ancestors, maybe, maybe 5 or 6 or 8 or 9 generations back. We could be carrying a pattern, or it could also be, something from a past life that we're carrying. So there's a lot of things that can really stay stuck in our bodies. And when we have like 10 bodies, according to Yogi Bhajan and Kundalini Yoga, we get stuck in our emotional body, and then it blocks us. So we may not be able to attract the kind of person that we would like to have a relationship with. Maybe, it blocks.
Yeah, what's with that?
Yeah, it happens.
Like, what's with that?
It happens because everything happens for us, and we are here. This is our classroom. We're here to learn. My grandmother was a very wise woman, and she always used to say that, life is a classroom and we are here, in school. And she was absolutely right.
Yeah, learning and growing and changing. So you have this question, it's kind of interesting. So how can we use this knowledge about, dropping into our hearts, using our intuition? Listening, I think, is one of the biggest, to that's what I call the still small voice, because usually it's little until you start to listen. How does that help us to increase influence or increase, I like to think of it as like having the reflection of our lives really look the way we'd like to look, either in relationship or with our finances or in our health. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Absolutely, because when you're in flow, when you're actually aligned, I like to think of it as you're holding on to Spirit's coattails. You're just flying along right behind. You're just right in the flow, and when you're in this space, it's almost as if you're egoless. there aren't any worries about money because you know that you're being taken care of. Everything you need shows up.
Mhm.
I know this because that's what happens. Everything you need shows up for you. And so when you're in this space and you're strong, you're confident, you're being guided, and you just have this sphere that illuminates your path in front of you, and that extends really your influence because people feel you when you show up. It's like, what do you have that I don't have?
Yeah, I always call it the vibe. There's a vibe, right? Like how you and I met was just like,
Totally.
you know, it wasn't, it was really effortless, right? It was just kind of, we're just both kind of being how we be. And I think a lot of us, myself included, get caught up in this doing. Like that's really making the difference.
Yeah,
and
it's not the doing.
It's not. I mean, you have to take action, right? And do things or make requests or make offers or whatever. But it's really so hinged on your energy and your vibe and the feeling that people get when they meet you.
Yes.
Or you're in a room and they like gravitate towards you.
Yes.
It's extraordinary. Now, recently I was, I've been having some health issues, and my doctor came into my hospital room, and it was just like, boom. It was like, she goes, have I ever met you before? And I'm like, no, I feel the same way. It's this energy. It was so obvious. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you're the person I want to work with. If I'm going to work with somebody in this realm, and everything that I do in my life, it's like the people on my team and the people that I want to have, people that are my clients and the people that I invite to the show. It's all people that I'm connected to.
Right.
Not some random, or I should do, or this one's got so much influence, whatever, right? It's great that you have a lot of influence too. And it's like, but ultimately to me, it's the connection that is the most important thing.
Yes. And the kind of connection that it is. If it's a heart connection, there are all kinds of other connections. People come from a place of power, and they exert their influence from a place of power. We see this over and over again in politics. And yet, when you come from your heart, you're not following the regular path. You're listening to your own beat, and you're following, your own path. You have your own way of moving there, and it feels good. And yesterday I was listening to a webinar, and she was doing a very good job. It went on and on and on and on. I was just curious to see what she was selling her product for. So about an hour and 40 minutes into it, she finally revealed the price. And, but I was very turned off. I know that type of webinar she was giving and how skilled she was. And really she did a very good job, but it was so manipulative. It just totally repelled me. And there was no way that I would ever do anything like that because it was awful.
I've started to pick up on that myself, and a lot of my friends and colleagues are talking about that there's a lot of skill in the sales process, or there's a lot of skill in how to enroll people in a particular way, but does it feel good? Or I had somebody recently come up to me and say, I was going to go to work with this particular mentor coach, but when I listened to her webinar, and it did not resonate. It's like kind of was a turnoff, kind of like what you're saying. And I think that's great, because I say to people, listen, when you have a strong brand, you want it to attract and repel. so that there's enough for everyone, and we're all capable of working with all the people that we want to work with. And it becomes, as you get more fine-tuned to it all, it becomes really obvious. So you're choosing to work with certain people is much more, I believe, is much more intuitive or of the heart than it actually is of, oh, this person's making, millions of dollars. They know how to do this thing. It becomes more like, do I resonate with this person? Does this feel right?
Yeah. And the feeling I think is very important. So many of us perceive energy in different ways. You and I are both very kinesthetic. So it's more about feeling. Other people, it may be very difficult for them to drop into the heart space. It doesn't, a lot of people are very disconnected from their feelings. They're up in their heads, or they may not even be in their bodies.
Right.
And so I do work with a lot of people like that. And it's really very rewarding when one gal, really beautiful lady, took like 4 of my trainings before she messaged me. She said, I'm in the movies and I'm crying, and it was exciting because she had, for whatever reason, had shut off her emotions. She lived in a man's world, in a man's profession, and it was not safe for her to feel her feelings. And, and here I, as an empath, am feeling everything that's going on, and I have to narrate to them, and you're feeling this, and this is what's happening, and this is what's happening. So, but now she's great. She's totally able to connect with her heart, and, that there's a lot of people can't, so I think that's something that there's nothing wrong with you if you're like that. Everybody perceives it differently. Go ahead.
They can if they, I mean, I think the heart and the head kind of want to come together as well. But so you're able to really work with people and show them that they can drop into their heart and drop out, drop in, drop out kind of thing.
What I find is the most important is safety. People have to feel safe when they're working, and emotions can be very, very scary. I just started to read a book yesterday about depression. I can't remember the name of it. It's a bestseller by Johann Hari. And, basically he was talking about, for the longest time, people thought that depression was caused by a lack of serotonin, but that's not. And then so these antidepressants, would raise the serotonin level, but they weren't really a fix. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical companies adjusted the results, so it looked like they were a lot more efficacious than they are, because they really don't do very much. There are a lot of other ways that you can help with depression that don't involve taking these drugs.
People need to actually get off of drugs. It's not sometimes kind of scary. I mean, I just came off a bunch of stuff myself, not a bunch, one thing. And, that I was taking for ADHD. And so many of us as entrepreneurs have this creative, wild frenzy happening, and learning to, I don't even know if I'm learning to. It just seems like I'm really much more grounded.
Practicing mindfulness, staying really into the present, which is really where your power lies, is when you're in the present moment. That's where it's all happening. But, so often we're stuck in the past. We're
racing to the future that doesn't exist.
Or, experiencing maybe a lot of grief, or, something that you haven't released. And you may think that you've already dealt with it, but maybe you haven't. And, and grief can come up for a lot of different reasons. It could be because you left your homeland, and not just because you lost a loved one, or, friend just kind of moved on and left you behind. So there's just so many. Oh, or it could be because you feel like you're getting older, not better.
Yeah. And I think, some of it can be so subtle. Sometimes you're not even that aware of it, right?
Yeah, very true.
So I think it's an interesting. So when you work with people, they kind of start to see, oh, I would imagine it could be as simple as, when I was a kid, I cried a lot. So I don't have a lot of stuff from my childhood, like my cat died and those kinds of things that could stay with you. But I think what you were talking about, safety, is so important, whatever that is. I mean, when I talk with my friends or we're discussing new relationships, or there's this, it's kind of like this, I don't know, it kind of takes the lid off of things. Do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't feel safe. This person's not calling, or they're not showing that they care in this way and that way. And all this stuff starts to bubble up. And I know for myself, safety is really, really big.
It's huge.
Even though, I like to swing around and have adventures and be crazy, safety.
Yeah. And for this guy, Johan Hari, it was terrifying for him to explore the real reasons of why he was depressed. It's terrifying, But, I would never, ever, ever push anybody to look at something they're not ready to. Why do that? You create a lot of resistance, and there's so many other ways. I love working with energy and
people can be open, without being forcibly pushed in a particular direction.
Yes,
I think
it's important.
So, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know you're giving away a fabulous. It's an ebook, right?
It's an ebook. 5 Reasons Smart People Make the Same Dumb Mistakes Over and Over Again in Life.
I can't wait to read that. I'm like, I'm studying that. Because it seems like that sometimes, right? It seems like, oh, I know all this stuff. I've read all these books, and everything looks pretty much the same as it's always looked, right? So
yeah.
So
many people
read your ebook
that have worked with other, with other mentors, and they've done all this training. And yet they're still in the same place. And, you need to look at why is that, and so often it's not their fault. It's hardly ever your fault. It's, it's because how would you know that this is a past life situation?
Right.
How would you know that? How would you know that, the reason that you're stuck financially is because 7 generations back, your great grandfather, had some kind of an accident with money, or, something horrible happened, and that just caught up in all of the downline, with you.
It kind of comes down through generation. And I like to say, it's in your DNA and you don't even know about it, right?
It can be, but the good news is that you can change that. That's the wonderful thing.
Yeah. That's what I think is great. We're capable of changing and moving and transforming and doing all sorts of stuff.
And those are miracles.
With the right help. Always with the right help.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, MarBeth, for spending this time with us.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne, for having me.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that we got on and talked a little bit more, and good luck with everything that you're up to and what you're doing. And people can find you. They can get the link and get your ebook and then look you up. And
right. It's at yourmiraclepower.com/biz, B-I-Z.
Yeah, that's great. So I get to see you soon, right? Am I seeing you soon? Are you coming out?
I am not coming out for a little while. No.
All right. Well, next time. This is great. We'll have to catch up again.
We'll definitely catch up.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.